The thing in Cell 9 wasn't supposed to exist. But standing outside that reinforced door 4 levels beneath the Nevada desert, I heard a voice that would shatter everything I believed about my government, my planet, and my species. Guard, I know you can hear me. The voice was calm, articulate, speaking perfect English. I've been waiting 70 years to tell someone what's coming. My hand froze on the observation slot. According to every classified document I'd signed, every briefing I'd received, every protocol I'd memorized, Cell 9 was empty. But someone was inside. Someone who knew I was standing there. Someone who knew my name. The fleet will arrive in 18 months, Guard Thornton. Maybe less. Your government knows. They've always known. And they're preparing for the wrong response. I should have walked away. Should have followed protocol. Should have reported the contact and let someone else handle it. Instead, I stepped closer to the door. What fleet? A pause. Then, the one that's been crossing the void since 1963. The one carrying 94,000 colonists. The one your leaders have spent half a century trying to prepare for while keeping your entire species in the dark. My mouth went dry. Who are you? Another pause, longer this time. When the voice came again, it carried a weight that made my skin crawl. I'm what they pulled from the wreckage at Roswell in 1947. I'm the one they've kept alive and isolated for 56 years. I'm the reconnaissance scout who was supposed to prepare Earth for peaceful contact. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead. Somewhere in the facility, machinery whirred. Everything sounded too loud, too close. And I'm the only one who can tell you the truth before it's too late. That was 21 years ago. Today, I'm watching CNN report on congressional hearings about UFOs. I'm seeing military officials acknowledge unexplained aerial phenomena. I'm reading articles about government transparency and disclosure. And I'm counting down, because the voice in Cell 9 told me the truth. The timeline accelerated. They're not coming. They're already here. My name is Dale Thornton. What I'm about to tell you breaks every security oath I ever took. But after 21 years of nightmares, after watching the signs mount, after slowly remembering what they made me forget, you need to know what really happened in Cell 9. You need to know what's coming. And you need to know why we're running out of time. I wasn't some conspiracy theorist. I was career Air Force security, 14 years on the job when they assigned me to Groom Lake in March 2003. Area 51, if you want a Hollywood name. To us, it was just the facility. Classified aircraft testing, experimental propulsion, nothing I hadn't seen at other black sites. The assignment briefing was routine. Perimeter patrol, facility security, standard protocols. They handed me a badge and a list of sectors I'd be covering. Sector 7 was deep underground, what they call the sublevels. Medical research, they said, biological containment. But there were rules for Sector 7 that didn't make sense. No patrol partner. Every other sector, you worked in pairs. Sector 7, you went alone. No radio communication once you entered. They said the research equipment interfered with signals, but radios worked fine everywhere else. And specific doors were marked off limits. They gave you a map with red lines and told you to stay between them. The strangest part was the cells, because that's what they were, even though nobody called them that. The briefing said research containment units and biological isolation chambers, but I'd worked enough detention facilities to know prison architecture when I saw it. Reinforced doors, observation slots, climate control, waste disposal connections. And according to my briefing, they were all empty. Decommissioned, the paperwork said. Unoccupied. They made that point several times. My first week was exactly that. Take the elevator to sublevel 4, walk the approved route, check the doors. The cells lined both sides of the main corridor, Cell 1 through Cell 12. Each observation window was dark. Empty rooms. Exactly what you'd expect from decommissioned units. By the end of that first week, I'd settled into the routine. Sector 7 was boring, probably punishment duty. Walk the corridor, check the doors, file the report, go home. Then on my 8th day, I heard the voice. I was checking the lock on Cell 6 when someone spoke from the direction of Cell 9. Not loud, not urgent, just conversational like someone talking on a phone. The voice continued for maybe 10 seconds, then went quiet. I stood there listening. Nothing. Just the hum of ventilation and distant machinery. but something felt wrong. Like when you walk into your house and can't shake the feeling someone's been inside while you were gone. I moved closer to the observation window of cell 9. The cell was dark, but I could make out the basic layout. Standard configuration, concrete walls, basic fixtures, empty, just like all the others. But as I turned away, I caught movement in the far corner. Just a shadow shifting, like someone adjusting their position. I reached for my radio, then remembered. No communications from Sector 7. That's when I heard it again. Guard. It was coming from inside Cell 9. Quiet but distinct, definitely addressing me. Guard, I know you can hear me. I froze. According to every briefing, Cell 9 was empty. But someone was in there. Someone who knew I was standing outside. I've been waiting 70 years to tell someone what's coming. The voice was calm, measured, patient, like a professor giving a lecture. But there was something about the tone that made my skin crawl. Not threatening, but knowing. I should have left immediately. Should have followed protocol. But I found myself stepping closer instead. Who's in there? I called out. Silence. Then, someone who's been waiting for you, Guard Thornton. They knew my name. What do you know my name? I know many things about you, Dale. I know you served in Kuwait. I know you have a daughter named Sarah studying veterinary medicine. I know you've been wondering why they assigned you to this sector. My mouth went dry. Those details weren't common knowledge. I know you've been wondering about the rules. Why no radio communication? Why no patrol partner? Why certain doors are marked off limits? I have been wondering. And I know you've been wondering why they told you all the cells were empty when you can clearly see that's not true. They were right. I didn't know the difference. And Sector 7 was definitely active. What are you? I asked. Long pause. Then, I'm what your government found in the desert in 1947. What they've been studying and hiding ever since. What they've been preparing for. Preparing for what? The return. Cold spread through my chest. The return of what? The others. My people. The ones who sent me ahead to study your species, to determine your readiness, to establish contact protocols. When? Soon. Very soon. The timetable has accelerated. Events your government set in motion, conflicts they've created, technologies they've developed. It's all moved faster than anticipated. I was shaking. Why are you telling me this? Because someone has to know. Someone outside their control structure has to understand what's really happening here. Why me? Because you're here, Dale. Because you listened instead of walking away. And because what's coming is going to happen whether your leaders are ready or not. Your species deserves to know. I stood there feeling like everything I understood was crumbling. Tomorrow night, Guard Thornton. Come back tomorrow night, and I'll tell you what your government really found in that desert. What they've been hiding for over half a century. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the conversation, trying to convince myself I'd imagined it. But I knew what I'd heard. The next evening, I arrived early. Made my way down to Sector 7, my heart pounding. When I reached Cell 9, I didn't have to wait. You came back. The voice was exactly the same. Calm, measured, patient. I came back. Are you ready to hear what your government found in the desert? I moved closer to the door, close enough to look through the observation window. The cell was still dark, but I could make out a figure in the far corner. Human-shaped, but the proportions seemed wrong. Too tall, too thin. I'm ready. On July 8th, 1947, your military recovered 3 items from the crash site 40 miles northwest of Roswell. 2 of them were dead, killed in the impact. I was injured but alive. Pause. Breathing, but deeper and slower than human breathing. They brought us to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. I watched them perform autopsies on my companions. Watched them try to understand our biology, our technology, our purpose. What was your purpose? Reconnaissance. Your planet had entered the atomic age. Nuclear weapons, nuclear power. That kind of energy signature is visible across great distances. It changes the electromagnetic characteristics of a world. Changes it how? Makes it ready. Suitable for colonization. The word hung in the air. Colonization. Not contact. Not peaceful encounter. Colonization. How many others? The advanced fleet consists of 47 vessels, each capable of carrying approximately 2,000 individuals plus equipment for establishing permanent settlements. Nearly 100,000. not visitors, colonists. When the fleet departed our homeworld in 1963, the journey takes approximately 60 of your years. They should arrive within the next decade. Should arrive. Past tense becoming present. The energy signatures your planet is now producing indicate a level of technological development that makes immediate colonization feasible. The fleet received those signals and began increasing their approach velocity. Best estimates now suggest arrival within 2 to 3 years. 2 to 3 years. Why are you telling me this? Because your government's response has been to hide the truth and prepare for a war they cannot win. They've spent 70 years studying our technology, trying to develop defenses, and they've failed. The technology gap is too great. Then what's the alternative? Negotiated settlement, peaceful coexistence, sharing the planet rather than fighting for control. Is that possible? It was possible. It might still be, but it requires your leaders to acknowledge our existence, to prepare your population for contact. They've done the opposite. They've maintained the cover-up and prepared for a war that will destroy both our species. I stood there processing. If this was true, humanity faced an invasion within years. An invasion our government knew about, but was hiding. What do you want me to do? Tell someone. Tell everyone. Make it impossible for them to maintain the cover-up. Who's going to believe me? You'll find a way. You have to. Because if the fleet arrives and finds your species unprepared, if they encounter military resistance instead of diplomatic contact, then what happened to the natives of Australia when your people colonized it will seem gentle by comparison. How do I know you're telling the truth? Tomorrow night. Come back tomorrow night, and I'll show you something that will remove all doubt. Show me what? The message. The communication from a fleet confirming their arrival date. I heard footsteps from deeper in the facility. Other personnel making rounds. I have to go. Tomorrow night, Dale. You'll understand why this conversation is the most important thing happening on your planet right now. The next evening, I brought a digital recorder. When I reached cell 9, the voice spoke immediately. You brought a recording device. How could it know? Turn it on. You're going to want to document what happens next. I pressed record, hands shaking. State your name and the date. Dale Thornton, March 17th, 2003. I'm in Sector 7 speaking with an individual designated keeper. Now look through the observation window. I moved closer and peered through the glass. The cell was still dark, but as my eyes adjusted, I could see more clearly. The figure wasn't human. Too tall, even sitting down. Arms too long. Head larger, but different proportions. When it turned to look at me, I saw eyes that reflected light like an animal's. My hand started shaking. Jesus Christ. Your fear is understandable, but fear won't help you. It stood up, over 7 feet tall, moving with fluid grace that made my skin crawl. The communication I promised will begin in approximately 3 minutes. The fleet sends status updates every 72 hours. How do you receive communications in a sealed cell? Your government doesn't understand our technology. They focused on mechanical aspects. But the real advancement is consciousness interface. The communication doesn't come through radio waves. It comes through quantum entanglement between consciousness. Direct mind-to-mind across any distance. That's impossible. Your scientists are beginning to discover quantum entanglement, but you haven't realized consciousness itself can be quantum entangled. It pressed its hand against the window. Fingers longer than human fingers, too many joints. Suddenly, I heard something else. Not through my ears, but inside my head. Like music, except it wasn't music. It was language. Patterns of meaning I couldn't understand, but felt significant and urgent. What is that? The communication is beginning. You're hearing it because of proximity during transmission. Your brain is picking up the quantum resonance. The sound grew stronger. I realized it was language. And underneath, I began to hear numbers. Coordinates. Dates. They're closer than anticipated, Keeper said. The fleet has increased velocity. The numbers became clearer. Dates that were months away, not years. Coordinates corresponding to locations on Earth. When the communication stopped, the silence felt like a physical weight. I staggered backward and slid down the wall until I was sitting on the floor. Now you understand why I had to tell you. Your government knows the timeline has accelerated, but they're not preparing your population. They're preparing for war. Maybe war is the right choice. Dale, look at me. Really look at me. I forced myself to look through the window. The thing sat calmly, completely relaxed despite 70 years of imprisonment. I am one individual, injured and captured, with no weapons or technology. And your government's most advanced facility has been unable to hold me if I truly wanted to leave. The only reason I'm here is because I choose to be. A chill ran down my spine. The locks are electronic. Electronics are vulnerable to electromagnetic manipulation. The walls are concrete and steel. Both can be compromised. The guards carry weapons I understand better than the humans who built them. You could escape anytime. I could have escaped any time in the last 70 years. I've remained because I hope to convince your leaders to approach this diplomatically. But time is running out. What happens if diplomacy fails? Then the fleet will arrive, encounter military resistance, and respond according to colonization protocols refined over thousands of years on dozens of worlds. Which means what? Complete elimination of the existing dominant species, followed by environmental modification to suit our biological requirements. I sat there, recorder still running, trying to process it. Why should I believe you? Because in approximately 30 seconds, you're going to hear footsteps. 3 men moving quickly. They've been monitoring our conversation since you first spoke to me. Everything we've said has been recorded. They decided you know too much. I heard the footsteps then, exactly as predicted. Multiple people moving through the tunnels toward us. Stand up, Dale. They're going to tell you I'm part of a classified psychological research program. A human test subject using voice modulation technology. They're going to offer you a promotion and a transfer. I scrambled to my feet. Don't accept the transfer. Don't let them move you away from Sector 7. As long as you're here, you're my only link to the outside world. The voices were close now. Remember the communication. Remember the timeline. 18 months, maybe less. And remember, I chose to trust you with this because you might be the only person who can prevent a war that will destroy both our species. 3 men in military uniforms rounded the corner. Colonel Matthews, the facility commander, and 2 others in uniforms I didn't recognize. Guard Thornton, Matthews said calmly. We need to have a conversation. What happened next changed everything I thought I understood about reality, about my government, and about my place in the universe. But that's a story for another time. Because right now, in 2024, 21 years after those conversations in Cell 9, I'm watching the news. I'm seeing reports of increased UFO sightings. Military officials acknowledging unexplained aerial phenomena. Congressional hearings about government cover-ups. And I'm counting down. 18 months, Keeper said in 2003. The timeline accelerated. They're not coming. They're already here. And what I learned in the days after that recording, what Colonel Matthews and his team did to make me forget what I've slowly been remembering over the past 2 decades. That's the real story. That's what they don't want you to know. The question is, are you ready to hear it?